Hello everyone, welcome to another vlog. So what I'm drinking here, I'm drinking the Bai Lin Gong Fu. This was originally called I swear it's not scented rose aroma. And then I switched it to, right now it's the Coca-Cola aroma or the Coca-Cola red tea, cola red tea. But I had it the other day and it was so yencha-y. I was like, God damn it, I have to switch it again. Um, because, and this was a conversation on the Discord yesterday, I I I like to name teas with flavor notes or feelings. I want you guys to be able to, like, when you're scrolling through Sweetest Do, you see a tea, you just glance at the name and you have a general idea of what the tea is. And I really first started doing this when a couple years ago I had this amazing. It was a True Cliff single grove old tree shuixian. It was fantastic. It was a yencha and it tasted like a dansong, which is something that can happen with old tree yenchas. I've had them twice, once since that one. Uh, and so this name had all these buzzwords, and they were all true, and they all really led to an amazing flavor. It was fantastic. Um, didn't really sell. Didn't really sell. And so, and I kind of understood why it didn't sell, because with that many like buzzwordy names, it just sounds disingenuous. It just sounds like you're being like, oh yeah, you should buy it because it's an old tree. Oh yeah, you should buy it because it's from this area. It seems like it's using buzzwords to sell. And so I remember I switched it to truly unique tea. Boom. I mean, it was a very expensive tea, so it didn't sell a lot more, but it definitely got a much better response when I just changed the name to truly unique. And so since then, I have tried to make names where you're on the website and you're just going down, you're like, oh, melon aroma, oh, watermelon, oh, even autumn and sunshine, because sometimes these teas don't really have a specific note that really stands out. Sometimes they do, like the watermelon white, but sometimes it's a feeling, it's a vibe. And so like the autumn sunshine in autumn is just one of those where it's that brown crispy flavor, like kind of like autumn leaves, but there is this brightness, like it's sunshine. So um it's a little less yenshi today. It really is. It does remind me of Coca-Cola, especially in the aftertaste, in that like dark thick sweetness, but also this like citrusiness to it, and that kind of like, and I have to make the flavor notes a little more clear what I mean by Coca-Cola. But Coca-Cola is, it's dark, thick, good thick body, but there is this kind of citrusy and spice. There's just a little bit of something that just adds a little you know. And this one has that. Obviously, it's not as dark as Coca-Cola, and it's not as thick, and it's not as sweet, but it kind of has that. It's that mix of like dark and thick with sweetness, and so I think that's what I'm going to change the name to. It's giving me Yencha. It is giving me Yencha, actually. It's giving me Yencha vibes. Darks, texturous. Yeah. So here is the problem with having the name of teas match will be being a description of them. Teas will change. In this case, it changed. We're looking at from fresh tea to tea that's a few months old. That's going to change. In the case of white teas, it can be big changes. I once sold a tea that I swear to God, when I bought it, had a blueberry flavor. That very quickly went away, and it had a medicinal flavor. And then that went away, and it had just kind of your basic aged white tea flavor. And unfortunately, between me naming it blueberry and me naming it, the medicine or whatever I called it, herbal, people had bought it. And so people bought it and they were like, it's good, but I don't really taste blueberries. I'm like, God damn it. Fucking changing teas. Anyway, so that's a little something. So today, besides that, there's one thing I want to talk about. Today we're going to talk about subscriptions. We're going to talk about Black Friday and Huang Shan. And maybe Wu Shan. So, start with Black Friday. Black Friday boxes are all out. Half of them, the shipper has gotten tracking numbers. The shipper has been given addresses. My phone is ringing right now because the shipper has received the other half, and I have to give addresses in a minute about those. I am going to push the shipper a little bit more to give me tracking numbers. That being said, she did message me and she was like, look, holidays are a very busy time. Speaking of time, Izzy, no. Holidays are every time I talk, Izzy knows. Okay, Izzy. She was like, look, holidays are a very busy time. There's a lot of flights, a lot of shipments going through that one warehouse. Shipping is going to be a little bit slow. Yes, Izzy. So, but I'm glad Black Friday is over. I think, I'm always trying to make Swedish do better. And one thing that I really learned from Black Friday is I really need to pre-prepare teas. I really need to pre-package teas. Like later today, I'm just going to go and I'm just going to have like 3 or 4 ounces of each tea just on hand. And so that way when an order comes, I don't have to worry about packing. I can just boom, boom, like grab it off the shelf, basically. Hi. So that's something I have to do. That's what I learned. Because I think a lot of the overwhelmedness I felt and a lot of the realizing this tea was too crushed or this tea was sold out could have been prevented if I had pre-packaged teas. And I have this very visual thing on my shelf of like, oh, I only have 3 ounces of this left. So that's going to get better. Subscriptions. There's a potential change to subscriptions. So originally I wanted the subscriptions to be focusing on Chawang because I have so Chawang is this award you get, and it means your tea entered a tea competition and it won. It was the best tea of the tea competition. That being said, Chawangs are not usually my favorite teas. When I go to a tea maker, I'll taste a bunch of different teas and I'll taste their Chawang and I'll be like, it's a little bland, it's a little boring. So originally I wanted to do a subscription box just about that. And I wanted a subscription box just about that. And so I was like, okay, let me get a silver needle, let me get a Bai Lin Gong Fu, I'll get something else. Let me do articles about them, let me do videos about them. It's going to be a whole thing. And I thought, I was like, oh, this is actually really good. Because I know a lot of you want more information about the teas and not just random teas. But then a few things kind of went wrong. So the first thing that kind of went wrong is it kind of snuck up on me. The time to put in a new subscription, a new round of subscriptions, create the new box, kind of snuck up on me. And out of the blue, somebody was like, all right, I'm ready for the next round of subscriptions. And I was like, shit, I have nothing ready. So I was like, okay, fine, that's fine. I can put things out. And then so I went to buy the teas, and I knew a Bai Lin Gong Fu. I talked to one person, and I knew he had a silver needle that was award-winning, and I knew someone else had a Bai Lin Gong Fu that was award-winning, and I was going to find something else. So I went to pick up the silver needle, and it turns out the guy who has award-winning silver needle also has an award-winning Xiao Sai Cha, heirloom varietal little veggie. Perfect. That's a great box. Silver needle, Xiao Sai Cha, Bai Lin Gong Fu. But then I tasted the silver needle, and it was really good, and I liked it. I really liked it. It's going to be available on the website standalone. And I was like, okay, so that kind of harpoons this whole original idea that Chawangs are um, overhyped, you know. I was like, okay, but fine, that's not that big of a deal. Um, still, we can still make the box work. It's still fine. And then and then when I went to pick up the Bai Mudan, it was my friend's shop. This is the shop who does the Fuding White, the Tia Kuan Yin Red, does the Herb Shop 2020 Aroma, and does the Preaching Ming Bai Mudan, which everyone's loving. So I go to pick up. So I go in. I say, "Hey, can I have the Chow Wang Bai Mudan?" And sure. And they were like, "How much?" I was like, "How much is it?" And they named the same price as the Preaching Ming Bai Mudan. And this was weird to me because in my head I was like, "Wait, isn't it double the price?" Because we had talked about it before. I was like, "Isn't it double the price?" And I was like, "Wait, is the Preaching Ming Bai Mudan and Chow Wang Bai Mudan, are they the same tea?" And they were like, "Yeah, same tea." I was like, "Oh, fuck." And the confusion had been, here's the confusion, as I watch Izzy chew on one of my tea containers. The confusion is the Bai Mudan that was twice the price was a Bai Mudan Wang, not a Bai Mudan Cha Wang. Bai Mudan Wang is a picking grade. Something I have to look into a little bit more, get the exact details. But but it's not a tea competition winning tea. The tea competition winning tea is the Preaching Ming Bai Mudan that's been on the website this whole time. And I was like, well, I don't love that. I don't love that because that means people who get this box, if they've already gotten the spring, the early the Preaching Ming Bai Mudan, they've already gotten it. They're getting the same tea twice. And I was like, I don't love it, but it's kind of too late, And things were kind of falling apart. This whole subscription wasn't really going the way I wanted it to in my head. So a couple weeks ago, I had that live with Gus, from Lakes and Rivers Tea, River and Lakes Tea, and Bai Hao Yin Zhen came up in conversation. No, sorry, Bai Lin Gong Fu came up in conversation. And we were talking about it, and I was like, oh yeah, I got one in my storage. It's actually pretty good. It has a lot of the Bai Lin Gong Fu flavor. And he was like, you should sell it. And I was kind of like, yeah, I should sell it. So I put it so I tasted it yesterday, and I was like, actually, yeah, this is really good. And it's gotten better since I first got it, because it's a 2014. And when I first got it, Johnny, when I first got it, it was very, very strong, very, very malty, and almost like too overpowering. I didn't really like it too much. But since then, it's actually calmed down. It's calmed down. The notes have settled down a bit, become a little more complex, a little more that rose aroma, not floral aroma. And I was like, oh, I actually really like this now. And I messaged the people who made it, and I was like, hey, like, how's this year's? And they give me some prices that was the same as the original price of the last year's. And then they were like, or we have something better. My favorite words. That's my favorite words from a tea maker. When you say, hey, when you're tasting a tea and they go, we have something better, yes, that's what I want. Like when they hold off a little bit, when they show you the main stuff, and then you're having a good conversation, and then they're like, we got something else, and you're like, oh yeah, this is gonna get good. So they had two teas. One was basically twice the price. Both of them were basically twice the price. One was a little less than twice the price. The other was a little more than twice the price, like 45 and 55% of the price sort of thing. So I was like, yeah, give me. Actually, originally I was like, give me a sample of each, and they were like, for these teas, the smallest we can do is half a pound of each. And I was like, yeah, let's do it. I'm down. So potentially, so what's probably going to happen, what's probably going to happen is a Bai Lin Gong Fu box. And this is one that I think, this is going to be a much better box. It's going to be a much better box, much more straightforward, much more simple. some red teas in time for the colder weather. And this is cool because this also does tie into what I've been talking about before, where for the more recent history, for a long time, Fuding didn't really have a white tea history. With really for a long time, the history and the people were making red tea. Bai Lin Gong Fu being one of the most popular ones. Golden Monkey. If you guys have had Golden Monkey, that's Bai Lin Gong Fu. I think the other other word for it is Bai Lin Gong Gu. A lot of you, if you've gone to an English tea shop, if you had your English teas, you get the nicer English teas. You've gotten a Kongu. What's the other one? I'm blanking. Hao Ya A, Hao Ya B. Bai Lin Gong Fu. That's Bai Lin Gong Fu. And so this actually has a history to it, and this is something a lot of you might have tried already without knowing it, and without quality. So, and then from there, I can still do interviews, and I can still history and videos. I can still really work a lot and have this educational, but much more clear, much more. Where before was kind of like form your own ideas, and it's a little bit trickier, something I might explore more in the future. This was straightforward. Here's one tea, 3 styles of the same tea, 3 different makers, because I can also buy from another maker here in Geelong. 3 different makers, boom. That's going to be a cool setup. That's going to be a really cool setup. Straightforward, easy. Yeah. Because even the teas that I was pulling for the Chawang box, I might, and then I can put the Chawang box to the side and I can play with that a little bit more. I can really find some of the other teas, get really more information. That's cool if I can develop it a little bit more. That's another conversation. Yeah, so I'm really excited about that. That's going to be very cool. Those should come. They're going to be shipped out today. I had the conversation last night. They're going to be shipped out today. It's coming from Bai Lin, which is like down the fucking road, or down the mountain. I could almost just go pick it up, and then so that will be sent out. For those people there's some people who did get the white tea box subscription in the last week. Some of you, if it was your second week in the last week, your second subscription round, you did get the white tea subscription. If I saw, because when I was packing up Black Friday, I was feeling this feeling of like, I'm not loving this idea. I'm not loving this, white tea Chawang box is kind of falling apart a bit. I wasn't confident in it. And so if I was packing up teas and I saw it was your first subscription, then I gave you the tea cake subscription. Because I do think the tea cake subscription is a much more and once again, much more simple, much more straightforward, good variety. Yeah, that's a good one. So some of you did get the white teas, and it's good. It's a good box, good nice white teas, but I think not as focused as I thought it was going to be. I think that's kind of the main thing. It did turn out to be a wider thing, which I can go into later, but it's going to take more time. Once again, I'm learning this lesson of pre-preparing, and I think this lesson of pre-preparing is a little more important now that I'm getting more orders, more subscriptions. Back in the day, I used to get like 1 order a month. And so I didn't really need to, not too long ago, I was only averaging a few orders per month. So I didn't really need to pre-prepare that much. It wasn't that big of a deal. But now that I'm getting a few orders a week, I need to do a little bit more. Huang Shan. Speaking of which, I'm checking a message from someone from Huang Shan. I am probably going to Huang Shan next week. I am probably going to Huang Shan next week. Qimen's. You know, it's really. I've mentioned before that I keep an eye on the various forums, the various, you know, the Gong Fu Cha Facebook group, the Discord, the T forum. I think T forum is highly underrated. I think if we're really going geekiness by geekiness, I think T forum is the geekiest platform. It was the least used. It was kind of coming up right before Discord, and then Discord came up, and yeah. But I have like the conversations in the Discord and the T forum groups. I can't even really keep up sometimes because they're citing articles and yada yada. That one's pretty geeky. Highly recommended. But you know, and I keep an eye on those, and I realized, and I kept seeing a lot of talk about red teas. And there's two things I saw. One, a lot of people talked about my Qimens. If you're new to me and you weren't following me, Johnny has a toy. Do you have a toy? Come here, Johnny. Johnny, come here. You got a toy? Let me see the toy. I don't want to see the toy. Oh, you got a toy? Yeah, come here. Yeah. Wait. All right, let me not do that. I am playing with Johnny in my other hand. If you want, good boy. Sorry. If you weren't following me, if you started following me in the last year and a half, you weren't there for my Qimen days. I lived in Huang Shan for 5 years, and then even after, at the end of my time in Huang Shan, I developed this love for Qimens, which is a whole nother conversation. And basically, actually, okay, my love for Qimens developed the whole time I was in Huang Shan. So when I first moved to Huang Shan, 2017, you know, I liked Qimens. I didn't love them. I didn't have that connection to them. And then 5 years later, by the time I had left, especially at the end, I had really developed a love for them, a personal love for them. And after exploring them and trying them different ways, and I realized that to really learn to appreciate and understand Qimens, you have to try a bunch, and you have to try a bunch of different flavors. And then once you try a bunch of different flavors and you start to understand Qimens, you can even then appreciate more basic Qimens. And so I just started doing these expansion packs. It was like 3 Qimens with 3 completely different flavors. And those are popular. People really liked those. And so a lot of people wanted to see me do Qimens again. And just on top of that, I realized that a lot of people have interest in red teas. A lot of people, I saw a good couple comments where people were like, is there anyone who specializes in red teas? And so I was like, all right, like this is something I can do. I can between living in Huang Shan and now in Fuding, where there's all these red teas here, I have a lot of access to red teas. I have a lot of very cool red teas, very interesting red teas. So there's a buttload of red teas on the website. Like I already added one Bai Lin Gong Fu. I have the Panyangs, which I actually need to brew up again. I have the Panyangs, and we're gonna get more Qimens. I would love to get a Zhenshen Xiaozhong. Oh, we're gonna talk about that in a second. So yeah, so next week I'm going to Huang Shan. I'm gonna get some red teas, maybe a Ho Kui, and kind of see how that is, see how the quality is on that one. Definitely, and then on the way back from Huang Shan, I'm going to stop in Wuishan because the Shui Xian is gone. The Qilan, actually, it's not completely gone. I have a little bit left I can add. The Qilan is basically gone. Rogueway is almost gone. Only 3 ounces of the Rogueway left. It's time that I want at least one Qimen on the one Wuishan on the website. And so I want one Wuishan on the website. And while I'm there, I might poke around for for a Zhenshen Xiaozhong. Zhenshen Xiaozhong is a little bit tricky. I've gotten some really good ones in the past, but they usually involve asking someone, going to my Yensha makers and being like, hey, do you know somebody? It's kind of that, I need to use some degrees of separation there. But that would be great. That would be great. But one Yensha. I just need one Yensha. It might not be top tier. I am going to be looking for something a little bit more roasty, a little bit more full. But obviously with something else, kind of scared Izzy a bit. I'll pick up anything that's good. Financially, because I'm coming back from Huang Shan as it was already, and I'm buying tea there, I won't be able to probably get anything too fancy or too expensive. At least not a lot, but we will see. We will see. Oof. All right, man, this is a hell of a tea. This is a really cool tea. Red teas, red teas, red teas. Red teas are great. Love red teas. Yeah. So that's that. Yeah, that's that. I think that's all for today. It is rocky. It's getting more rocky. It's getting lighter, not as strong, but a little bit lighter. But lighter, but as you can see from the body, obviously that was a bit of a longer steep. A really nice amber color, and I think it is kind of like an ambery flavor. Actually, amber might be a good word. Once again, I'm looking for these words to put in the title. This is a Panyan Kongu, another tea that you will often find in high-end English shops. Once again, another tea that has a history. It has a history. So yeah, I'm going to close this, send the last orders, the last tracking numbers to my shipper, sorry. Then pre-pack some teas, and so this is not such a mess in the future. Next week I'm going to Huang Shan, hopefully hitting Wu Shan on the way back. Should be hitting Wu Shan, because it's on the way. So I go to Huang Shan, which is kind of a bitch to get to, I will say. And then from Huang Shan to Wu Shan is like an hour. Like, that was amazing. I remember those days. Huang Shan, Wu Shan, and then come back to Fuding. And then, yeah. And then the Bai Lin Gong Fu red teas. Bai Lin Gong Fu subscription box is the next round of subscription box. And I got a lot to do. I will make this subscription box available by itself. I will make the subscription box available standalone. So if you just want to try the Bai Lins, but you don't want to sign up for everything, you just get the one box. Obviously, it'll be more expensive than getting a subscription. But yeah. All right. Thank you all. I appreciate all of you. Goodbye.